Ambulance chaser?
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, that's a derogatory term, but sure, I'm an ambulance chaser. So yeah, big deal.
Vulture?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what people are saying is that when there's a disaster, when other people suffer misfortune, there you are circling, and you go in and pick the bones.
Those people are strictly money hungry. There's no other way that you can put it in. They're vultures when it comes to that.
DuSable High on Chicago's South Side is telling parents who dropped out of high school, if you have a child in this school, we'll let you come back and take regular classes with the other students to get the diploma you never got.
Well, when I first went, the kids were saying, what's she doing? And I said, what y'all think I'm doing? I'm coming to get the same thing y'all trying to get, a high school diploma.
Dr. A. Gopalakrishnan makes no apologies for the fact that India is one of the only nuclear power-producing countries in the world to resist safety reviews by the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna.
Why don't you allow safety inspectors from the international agency to come in and inspect?
Why should we do it? What is the need for it?
Almost every other country in the world does it.
I don't know. We're coming to look whether the reactors are safe, or coming to see what they are doing there?
Nuclear power program is to feed our nuclear weapons program. I have no doubt about it.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Ed Bradley. I'm Steve Croft.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Those stories and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
Another company may be promising your business big savings compared to AT&T, but they're comparing apples to oranges. When you compare our best price to theirs, you'll discover leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
I thought you might like to see what a day in the life of Weight Watchers' new Superstart program looks like. Eating meals like this is what helped me lose more than 8 pounds in only 2 weeks. More importantly, it got me started and gave me the confidence to keep going. As of today, I've lost a total of more than 13 pounds. So you can see that Superstart really does work if you're in a hurry to get started. Come to Weight Watchers now while it costs only $14 to join. Come on, call now.
Like luxury sedans costing twice the money, the Nissan Altima has special sound dampening insulation and 3 seals on every door, which helps sound outside the cabin remain outside and sound inside remain inside. Now lease the Altima GXE with a special options package for $229 a month and $750 down for 36 months.
I prefer my coffee smooth. I like it more robust. Introducing the new Braun Flavor Select with a unique brewing system that lets you adjust from mild to more robust. The new Braun Flavor Select for coffee just the way you like it.
They are known as parachute lawyers, attorneys who specialize in major accidents like plane crashes and train wrecks. Their goal is to jump in as soon as possible and sign up as many clients as possible after a mass disaster. The practice can be lucrative, but soliciting business from grieving victims is considered embarrassing and even unethical by the legal establishment. In many states, it is also illegal. That's why most lawyers who do it won't admit it. But not John Cole of Washington, D.C., perhaps the most successful parachute lawyer in the United States. In fact, he's been called the master of disaster. But that's not all he's been called.
Ambulance chaser?
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, that's a derogatory term, but sure, I'm an ambulance chaser. So yeah, big deal.
Vulture?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what people are saying is that when there's a disaster, when other people suffer misfortune, there you are circling, and you go in and pick the bones.
No, I go down and I circle and I go in, and then I pick the bones of the corporation bastards who did it to these people. That's the bones I'm picking.
In the last 3 years alone, Cole has picked the bones of big corporations to the tune of over $100 million. About $25 million of that went to his firm. He's currently after the companies he says are responsible for the deaths of 47 people in last September's Amtrak train crash in Alabama.
All right, let's go.
And he's willing to do whatever it takes to look at evidence, even if it means skirting the law.
Why don't we go over before they kick us out of here?
Let's go over before they get us.
Walk over there? Yeah.
Hell yeah. What are they going to do?
Cole and his investigators know they might be trespassing if they go into this Amtrak railroad car parked on Alabama's state property. 22 people killed in the train crash died in this car. Cole is representing a dozen of the families involved in that disaster, and he wants to examine the evidence without waiting months for permission.
Were these the people, a lot of people were in here?
They were sitting down here. There was. Yeah, this is the 15th. 10 or 12 people down in here at least.
Uh-huh.
This is what we found.
It's very eerie, though. I mean, when I went upstairs, where most of the people died, there was mud. There were still personal belongings in there, which surprised me.
Right.
And it was very eerie. But I wanted to get a good look at the configuration of the train and how somebody was even locked in the bathroom and all that. When you see it, you just get a much better idea of what happened. Here they come. All right. Let's go, Ted.
One of the people killed in that car was the wife of Joe Kaspelich. He found out firsthand how parachute lawyers can operate.
Those people are strictly money hungry. There's no other way that you can put it in. They are vultures when it comes to that.
Kaspelich's wife, Martha, was killed in the Amtrak crash less than an hour after she boarded the train to take her to a Disney World vacation. That train careened into the murky bayou waters north of Mobile at over 70 miles an hour. That very same day, parachute law firms began hustling Joe Kaspelich for business.
I'd have as many as 5 calls in one day. I kept saying, please, you know, let's wait. Let me get on my feet. I'm not trying to figure out who in the hell I want to represent me any kind of way. The only thing I'm worried about right now is, am I going to get through this thing? Please don't call me anymore. Before they found my wife, I was even approached in the restroom.
In the men's room?
In the men's room. And I let the guy know right then that, hey, there's not but 2 of us in here, and there's not room for both of us.
We condemn the conduct of those who show up uninvited at the scene of a disaster. It's obscene.
Roxanne Conlon, Rich Haley, and Barry Nace are all personal injury lawyers and officers for the Association of Trial Lawyers of America. Their organization and the American Bar Association have both taken strong stands against lawyers soliciting clients in person or by phone.
What's tacky about what they do is they take a tragedy. They take a situation where people are vulnerable, where people have other concerns, where people are suffering a great loss, and they exploit that situation to acquire employment.
These lawyers say that accident victims need time to grieve without being bothered by attorneys. They recommend that all lawyers stay away from mass disaster victims for at least 30 days.
That is just ridiculous. That is by people who don't do this kind of business. They don't know what they're talking about. Look, I'm in it up to my eyeballs in death, destruction. I mean, I'm seeing this crap. What we're here to do is to do something for the people we represent. That's what I'm supposed to do. You've got to find out, you know, what the hell's going on. Yeah.
Cole says getting to the disaster scene quickly is vital to secure fair settlements for the victims. That way he can protect the victims from insurance adjusters who are bent on settling for as little as possible. And he can start his investigation before evidence is lost or destroyed.
Well, it's a rotten place to die.
If you have a client, you have a legitimate reason to investigate any incident. We're not saying that you should be condemned for investigating it at your earliest possible opportunity. What we're talking about is this, quote, investigation that yields 20 new clients. We have a hard time getting from photo taking and evidence collecting to hustling cases in the lobbies and the hotels where the victims are staying and signing up people. That's the conduct we condemn.
Cole's been accused of soliciting clients like that since he began chasing disasters 10 years ago at one of the biggest in history, the Union Carbide chemical leak in Bhopal, India, where thousands were killed or injured.
I had no idea that I'd get there, and a couple weeks later, 50,000 clients.
How many?
50,000 clients. Come on. They wanted to be represented. I mean, there were lines 3-4 city blocks long to sign up.
They want to be there when it happens, and they want to catch people when they're not in the state of mind, the right state of mind. And I, honest to God, believe that's what they thrive on.
Joe Kaspelich says that John Cole's firm relentlessly hustled him shortly after the Amtrak disaster in Alabama. After seeing Cole's sales brochure, Kaspelich says he told the attorney in no uncertain terms that he wasn't interested. But just 10 days after the accident, another package from Cole's firm arrived containing several 8x10 color photographs of the train wreckage.
First thing I pulled out of there was 20 bodies laying on a barge.
It was a photograph?
Yeah. And the one right behind it actually slipped out of my hand and hit the table, and it was the one in the car that my wife was in. And if anything's ever set anybody back, that'll ring in my eyes the rest of my life.
Kaspelich says he immediately tore up the photo of the bodies. Cole says he never sent such a picture.
He's a damn lie. I'd look at him right straight in the face. The only thing that I ask those people to do is leave me alone. Let me get my feet on the ground. Let me think. How in the hell can a man think in a situation like that?
Another accident that drew a horde of parachute lawyers was the 1991 fire at the Imperial Chicken Processing Plant in Hamlet, North Carolina. Sylvia Martin was one of 56 people severely injured. 25 others were killed. A few days after Martin came out of a coma, a lawyer came into her hospital room.
So while you were in the hospital bed, a representative of a law firm came in and tried to sign you up?
Yeah.
And you were still unable to speak?
Yeah. And he wanted me to sign some kind of papers, but like I said, I couldn't, you know, move my hands and nothing. So he gave me a pencil and laid a pad on my bed for me to sign this paper.
Despite that unpleasant experience, Martin and 55 others who were solicited by a number of lawyers eventually hired John Cole, knowing that he too was hustling clients. David Albright lost his son in the fire and says Cole was exactly the kind of lawyer he was looking for, a lawyer experienced in disaster litigation.
You know, I don't see that anything that he did was wrong, because it's, you know, every night I watch TV and I can see at least 2 ads by lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident, if you've been this, call this number. You know, what's wrong with him doing it when everybody else does it?
At times like these, you need an attorney.
The North Carolina Bar Association says that in their state, solicitation through advertising like this is acceptable, and solicitation in person is not. But John Cole did it anyway. After Olin Mote's wife was severely injured in the chicken plant fire, Motes himself suffered a heart attack. He later filed a complaint against Cole's firm because he says they tried to solicit both him and his wife at the hospital.
Here's a guy whose wife is injured, has brain damage, doesn't know what's going on. Your people are there circling. The guy has a heart attack, and a few days later, your people are after him.
No,
that's when they say it's like a vulture.
Well, okay. I heard that they were, you know, that they were told by the son to go visit. I don't know. I take responsibility. It was unfortunate, and I told him, and it wouldn't happen again. But, yeah, that happens, and it's not okay.
That kind of solicitation is not only not okay with the North Carolina Bar Association, it's illegal. As a result, a warrant was issued for the arrest of Cole and one of his investigators. That warrant is still outstanding here in North Carolina, so when Cole comes down for a meeting with his clients, he does it just across the border in South Carolina.
What I wanted to come and talk to you all day is to explain in more detail what's going on with this case, because we're in it for a while.
Every 2 months, Cole briefs his 56 clients from the chicken plant fire on the progress of their cases. They have already split over $8 million in the initial settlement negotiated by his firm, and there are another 41 lawsuits still pending.
Mary.
In the meantime, Cole has transferred someone from his Washington, D.C. office to live full-time in North Carolina to help manage his clients' lives, orchestrating everything from their workers' compensation checks to their doctor appointments.
We're in for the trench warfare right now.
It's all made Cole a hero to his clients. One even named her son after him.
And what's the kid's name?
Zachary. Zachary Cole Roberts. Actually, it's quite touching.
See, I thank God for the man every day.
Canester Williams was injured in the fire.
I don't see him being an ambulance chaser because I know for myself that they have sat on my porch, sat in my living room, sat on the ground, on the steps in my yard, and prayed many a times with me. And anytime you call them, somebody is there.
I believe that there is a professional responsibility on the part of lawyers to chase ambulances.
Monroe Friedman is a professor of legal ethics at Hofstra University and a lecturer at Harvard Law School.
We are here to help members of the public, and we are not helping members of the public the way we're supposed to do it if we are not there to tell people who are ignorant of their rights that they've got rights, and I'm a lawyer, I'd like to help you.
And the bottom line for you, looking at these lawyers,
is that one of those lawyers should be selected as Lawyer of the Year for representing people who wouldn't have representation otherwise at a fair fee and giving them competent representation.
An ambulance chaser is Lawyer of the Year?
Right, precisely.
What goes through your mind when you hear there's been a plane crash, train wreck, hotel fire?
I'll tell you, the first thing is I'm disgusted. I have the reaction anybody does in the first second I hear it. Then I think, oh, God, we're going to get into this. It's what our business is. I'm going to go someplace. I'm going to catch hell. There'll be bad stories in the media and all this stuff. And, God, I wish it didn't happen. And then I go.
And people say, here comes a vulture again.
Yeah, well, some people say that. The victims say, thank you.
I want to tell you about my home far away. My mother and father are there.
Strengthening the links of communications requires capital. In the last 3 years, Merrill Lynch raised over $50 billion for communications companies around the globe. We connect investors to opportunities and the people of the world to each other. For them, it makes a difference. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
On February 17th, this is what MCI could do for your business. Last year, American business wasted $1 billion using the wrong long-distance company. How much of that money came from your business? Claim it February 17th.
Please be seated. The performance is about to begin. The 32-valve, 280 horsepower Lincoln Mark 8. It's like Beethoven with an attitude. Drive everything else first.
In Lillehammer, Norway, the world's greatest human drama has begun to unfold. This evening, the men's downhill. Each man will get one run, one chance, including American superstar on the rise, Tommy Moe. In the summer, Moe knows the beauty of his home state, Alaska. But in the winter, Moe knows downhill. The games continue in less than an hour.
If you think about the odds against you in life, think about these odds. You live in a project in the inner city, you had a baby when you were a teenager, and you dropped out of high school. The classic formula for a dead-end job or a life on welfare. But one high school, DuSable High on Chicago's South Side, one of the toughest neighborhoods in America, is trying to change those odds.
We can't get it, take it out.
It's telling parents who dropped out of high school, you're going to get a second chance. If you have a child in this school, we'll let you come back and take regular classes with the other students to get the diploma you never got. So at the age of 39, Larry Morris is back in high school as a junior, the same high school where his son Jermaine is a senior and a member of the junior ROTC. Jackie Fulton, also 39, is back as a sophomore, 1 year behind her son Gerald. Ida Garner is a senior at 39. Her 16-year-old son, Quante, is a sophomore. Anita Jones is a 29-year-old junior who dropped out of high school 14 years ago when she was a freshman at DuSable, and now she's back walking to the same school with her fellow student, her son, Demetrius.
Why did you drop out?
At the time, I was pregnant, and I wanted my child.
How old were you?
I was 14.
14.
And pregnant.
Were you married?
No. No.
So you have a child who is how old?
14.
The child is the age you were when you dropped out?
Yeah.
Y'all have a nice evening. They're in the same school, but the rules are that parent and child are never in the same classroom, and that's just fine with her son.
What's the worst thing for you, Demetrius?
The worst thing is seeing her every day.
Seeing her every day?
Yeah, because I have to see her at home, then see her at school. So that's the worst thing.
It's a lot of mother in one day. But what's the best thing?
Best thing, seeing her get an education, and seeing that she's trying to do something for herself. Yeah.
This year, Demetrius's mother is part of a group of 5 women and 1 man who have come back to DuSable.
Whenever there's no sign in front of it, it's positive.
They're sitting in the same classrooms and eating the same cafeteria food they did a generation ago.
The cone is going to go inside your test tube. One of you is going to have to hold it.
And it's the same diet of English and math and science that they thought they had left behind.
So the definition would be balance?
And not only that, there's the homework.
Whoa.
Larry Morris, who dropped out as a teenager when his girlfriend became pregnant, is doing homework every night with a little help from his son.
He seems like he makes sure I'm doing my homework more so than I'm making sure he's doing his. He checks on me.
The program, as far as we know, the only one like it in the country, was started by this man.
Who is that I see?
The man who walks the halls at DuSable, Principal Charles Mingo.
Now hurry up.
Almost all the students and parents at this school come from the projects that are right across the street. The parents were afraid to go to night school to get their diplomas because the projects are no place to leave a child home alone at night. Mingo remembers one of the mothers coming to him to explain her dilemma.
She lived in public housing. She felt that she could not be away from her children from 6 to 10. So she said, I need to do it right here. And so we thought about it. And so I said, well, I ought to put you in class with the regular kids. And she said, would you?
So it pumps it out, eventually to the cell.
Of course, putting these parents in class with the regular kids had a certain risk factor. After all, these parents were the dropouts of 15 or 20 years ago. Why would they be better students now than they were the first time around?
Now that I'm older and back at the same school that I originally came from, I just feel thirsty for knowledge, you know, hungry, you know, just give it to me, I gotta have it.
Larry Morris says he has to have it too. As a dropout, the best job he's been able to get is as a security guard at a parking garage for the minimum wage. When it came time for a promotion or a better job, there was always one thing missing.
And you go down there and they say you must have a high school diploma. I wanted to be a police, a sheriff, or in-house security. I wanted to expand my field in security, but the co-workers that worked with me, I guess it was one of what's wrong with me. They was gradually moving on, going to better things, better jobs, benefits, and whatnot. And I was stuck with a minimum wage job.
So, as we said, Larry Morris is back in the same high school where his son Jermaine is a senior.
When he told you he was going to go back to school, were you for it or against it?
I had mixed emotions. I was kind of for it and I was kind of against it. But I was hoping for the best.
Why were you for it?
Well, mainly education. Education is important. When people need to finish high school, they finish nothing else. So I figure more money if you finish high school.
From Dad?
Mm-hmm.
But what was the downside?
The downside was, well, what I thought what people would say. Different people, you know, different people have different attitudes about it. So I was more or less concerned about other people.
Did they tease you, rib you?
Well, actually, they didn't.
But that wasn't true for some of the other kids of the parents in school.
Did anybody ever tease you about your mother being in school?
Yeah.
What did they say to you?
They said she was dumb and that that she's not so smart and all that, yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
I was hurt, yeah.
But Shirley Boyd, one of the parents who graduated last June, didn't seem to get hurt at all.
Well, when I first went, the kids were saying, "What's she doing?" And I said, "What y'all think I'm doing? I'm coming to get the same thing y'all trying to get, a high school diploma."
Did they make fun of you?
Yes, they did. They was calling us out our names, but it didn't make me no difference.
Well, what did they say, specifically?
They called us, "What that damn lady doing here?" And they were just cussing the teacher out.
So in the beginning, the kids did not like the idea at all?
They sure don't.
It wasn't just the students. The teachers weren't all that thrilled about it when they first heard they were going to have people their own age sitting in their classrooms.
My initial thought was, why me?
Diane Donaher was one of the first teachers to get the parents in her art class.
What did you think was going to happen?
I literally thought it might be a catastrophe. Thinking back, having children that had gone through high school, would I want my child sitting next to a grown person? And it became kind of difficult for me to understand that. And I had to work through it and see it for myself.
All right, have any of you ever had a cast on your body?
And what it did was it brought a new respect to the class. These young people who had possibly not shown one another the respect that they needed to show began showing these parents and fellow students more respect daily.
Changed the whole chemistry.
Changed the whole total chemistry of the classroom.
We're gonna lift it off your face. Come on.
At the age of 30 or 40, they're back in a child's world, subject to the same school rules as their teenage children.
Late folks, count off.
If they're late, they could end up in the lateness room with these kids.
Now, your mamas don't have no alarm clocks?
When the bell rings, they have 4 minutes to get to the next class, which sounds easy. But try it when you're competing with 1,000 teenagers doing the same thing, and you've put on a few pounds. The good news is they don't have to take gym. Otherwise, they have to do everything the kids do.
How's everybody doing?
What the teachers have found, to their surprise, is that in class, the parents get right down to business. Most of them sit right up front in the teacher's face.
You need paper and pencil?
When she dropped out as a teenager, Jackie Fulton was a slow reader. She still is.
I was getting ready to read, and I was hesitating to do holler out and say, she must can't read.
What, a kid screamed out?
Yes.
She must can't read?
Yes. And it hurted me, but I didn't let him know it hurted me. I had my head down because I felt tears coming down. And I told him, I said, if you was any type of person, you wouldn't criticize me, you would try to help me.
Did you think, when this kid made fun of you, that I'm going to quit, I can't do this, this is not going to work?
No, because this is something that I wanted to do, and this is something that I need. This is one of my dreams, to get my diploma and learn how to read.
When Jackie Fulton got her report card, like all the other kids, she got her mother to sign. For Ida Garner, finishing a project for art class was the first thing she had ever completed on her own.
All right, Ida, show the class the one that you did.
This is my first design ever making in my life.
She is so proud of it, and that's infectious with the rest of the class. Then they see this sense of self and sense of pride.
Phyllis Davis is the school counselor assigned to the parents.
Our parents try harder. They really do. They realize their mistakes, so they're going to try even more. In a classroom, very often that parent will bring the class to order quicker just because I'm here. And this is serious. You guys, be quiet.
Like the day the teacher didn't show up for class, and Anita Jones just took over and began taking attendance. Or the role they play in keeping order in the halls.
What was happening is I was going down the hall and I saw this girl pop this boy in the hall, and not only did she hit him once, she hit him again. And
over by the locker, and I was thinking, oh my God, I got a fight in the hall, etc. So I rushed right up there, and I found that it was not a girl-boy fight. It was a parent who found her son, who should have been in gym, and he was out in the hall.
So she hit him?
She let him know right away, not just hit him, but she hit him and she marched him up to the gym.
Last June, they held the first graduation at DuSable High that included parents. There were 4. Shirley Boyd was one of them.
When you went up, they handed you your diploma.
I cried. All I can remember is crying.
And you got your diploma?
And went on prom.
And you what?
Went on prom.
You went to the prom?
Yes, I did.
You didn't. You went to the senior prom?
I wanted to see how it is myself. And I seen how it was. It was nice.
Did you get a better job after you got your diploma?
I don't have no job right now. I'm going to college for nursing.
You're going to college?
Yes, I am. Harold Washington College.
But you couldn't have gotten into without your diploma.
Right, I couldn't.
Right now, a lot of our parents are locked into the projects by mentality.
Well, because they dropped out.
Well, they dropped out, but then they're going to see education as a facilitator. If I choose to stay in the project, so be it. But right now, I have a way. You know, this is going to get me out of here. You know, it's going to get me to college, maybe. It's going to show my kids that I have something going for me in my life. There's a need in all of us that we want to be happy. And I don't want you to look down on me. I don't want you to feel that you're better than me. So give me what you got.
Do you ever get discouraged?
No, I'm very excited about learning. I'm learning more than I give myself credit for. And it's a hunger, and it's just like being on a roller coaster. And I haven't came down yet, but I'm very excited about being back in school. It's a personal goal of mine, and I've never kept no goal, so it's more personal now, and I want to keep it. I think if I can keep the first goal, I'll be able to keep a lot more.
Hello.
So, what'd you think of that Bonneville? Did you drive it?
Oh, that SSCI is terrific.
Yeah.
Supercharged, traction control, ABS, dual airbags, leather. What a car.
I told you.
And you were right. It's thousands less than the BMW or the Lexus.
Well?
I'm picking it up tomorrow. I owe you one, pal.
Okay. I'll take a white one.
Oh, it's so cute.
Excuse me. Could you take a picture of us with photo over there?
If you take off to the Italian town of Todi, but your camera just takes off,
Where'd they go?
you better have Visa Gold, because there's not a camera store there that takes American Express.
There's a great shot.
Visa Gold, it's everywhere you want to be.
One night, not long ago, an otherwise quiet town in Texas became not so quiet. When an explosion shook the town, GTE was there with the only link to the outside world, GTE MobileNet.
Great! Yeah, I'm glad I got you.
Not every day is like that one, but for more than 1 million GTE cellular customers, clear, reliable service is just as vital.
I'm gonna be late. Thanks for letting me know. It's not the end of the world.
GTE MobileNet. Another way it's amazing what we can do together.
60 Minutes, a CBS News weekly magazine, will continue.
I anchored the news from Washington when NAFTA was the story of the week.
Connie's an excellent reporter.
We had been trying to get an interview with President Clinton. All of a sudden, one day, the White House called.
She has a good instinct for a story.
When I interviewed him, I really wanted to provoke him into expressing the kind of passion that he has.
Real journalistic credentials.
So I really pressed him.
She smiles easily.
His aides were absolutely furious, really, with me.
But she's a tough competitor.
And I went away thinking, I guess I did a good job.
This is CBS.
They gave you the best years of their lives. Now they need you. Who will care for Mom and Dad? An Eyewitness News 3-part series beginning Wednesday at 5:30 on KTVO, Channel 11.
How long it's been, come with us
this land called Taiwan. Come fly there and see. Oh yes, we do treasure your touch. Oh yes, each and count.
China Airlines.
You think you've got a tough commute in the morning? Meet Buster Bryant, operations geologist for BP.
Hey, how's it going?
Today, he'll cover about 800 miles by car, plane, and helicopter before he finally gets to his office. Ah, there it is now. It's called Yukon Gold, a BP exploratory well site. Buster's job is to analyze geological samples and help identify where oil may be hiding.
We're getting better and better at zeroing in on smaller pools of oil because our technology is getting better. And it's a good thing, too, because most of the elephants like Prudhoe Bay are gone, and the ones that are left are smaller and harder to find.
But for Buster, therein lies the challenge, and what he likes about his job. That and the fact that come 5 o'clock, rush hour traffic is, well, it's nothing.
It's a wall-to-wall clearance at Alaska Factory Direct Furniture. We're remodeling all our stores, so there are huge savings in every department. For instance, our low prices just got lower on beds and sofa beds. High-comfort mattress sets and futons are well within your budget. There are new bargains on living room furniture, and classy kitchen and dining room sets are now at scrumptious prices. Quit climbing the walls over wanting new furniture. This is your chance for fantastic bargains. The terrific wall-to-wall clearance at Alaska Factory Direct. It packs a wallop.
Eyewitness News 11 updates at 6:25 and 7:25 weekday mornings with Eileen Floyd.
Nothing frightens the world like a nuclear bomb falling into the wrong hands or a nuclear accident like the one that occurred at Chernobyl, which is why the international community has paid a lot of attention to countries like North Korea, Iran, and Iraq, and to the aging, decrepit nuclear reactors of the former Soviet Union. But one country has largely escaped scrutiny, India, where nothing seems as important as its membership in the nuclear club. Over the years, it has steadfastly kept international safety inspectors out of its facilities, while pursuing one of the most ambitious, secret, and potentially dangerous nuclear programs in the world. Deep in the heart of the Indian rainforest, the Indian government is building 2 brand new nuclear power plants of outmoded design, surrounded by the kind of secrecy and security that you'd expect to find at a military installation. The Indian government says the reactors are needed to help lift more than 800 million people out of poverty and into the 20th century. That nuclear power is vital to India's future prosperity.
Mr. Sharma from India.
But Dr. Dhirendra Sharma, a retired university professor and one of the few people in India willing to take on the government-controlled nuclear establishment, says there's a reason why the country's nuclear power plants are treated like military installations.
Nuclear power program is to feed our nuclear weapons program. I have no doubt about it. Nuclear energy and nuclear weapons, the two are Siamese twins. They cannot be separated.
They can't be separated, Dr. Sharma says, because the spent fuel from those nuclear power plants is needed to make nuclear bombs for the Indian military. When the government of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi exploded a nuclear device 20 years ago, the United States and Canada stopped helping India build reactors. And to this day, the sale to India of nuclear fuel, vital spare parts, and critical safety systems for its nuclear plants is forbidden by most Western governments. But that hasn't stopped India from making more nuclear bombs and building more nuclear plants, even though Sharma says India probably can't maintain the safety standards that the high-risk technology demands. Today, the Indian nuclear program is a dangerous failure. Its power plants are all operating at less than 50% of capacity, and some are even suspected of using more electricity than they generate. There's little oversight, no independent regulation, and for the most part, Indian reactors are off limits to international inspectors. The most recent trouble was in March at Narora, a nuclear power plant built in an earthquake zone barely 115 miles from the capital of New Delhi. A major fire broke out at the plant, knocking out all of the power in the control room.
How serious was it? I would say that it was touch and go.
And he isn't the only one who says so. A U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission report called the incident a close call. Just how close may never be known, Sharma says, because Indian law gives the government the power to operate in almost total secrecy when it comes to nuclear matters.
It is forbidden to talk, plan, write, investigate about past, present, or future nuclear power programs. All this is under the law is forbidden.
Aside from the emergency at Narora, the Indian government has admitted to 146 other nuclear mishaps, and that's just last year. 5 of them ended up killing people. There was an explosion at the country's main fuel fabrication plant, a jet fire at a heavy water facility that sent flames shooting 130 feet into the air, and an underground leak of radioactive water at a research facility. That information, but very few details, was provided by India's Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, the government-controlled watchdog group that's responsible for nuclear safety. Its chairman, Dr. A. Gopalakrishnan, makes no apologies for the fact that India is one of the only nuclear power-producing countries in the world to resist safety reviews by the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna. Why don't you allow safety inspectors from the international agency to come in and inspect?
Why should we do it? What is the need for it?
Almost every other country in the world does it.
I don't know. For coming to look whether the reactors are safe, or coming to see what they are doing there?
Whatever they're doing here at the Rawatbada nuclear facility in the state of Rajasthan, they're not doing it very well. The plant has one of the worst operating records in the country. Unit number 1 was shut down for 3 years because of a crack in the reactor's end shield.
Yes, there was a crack in the reactor end shield.
And you shut the plant down for 3 years. You must have been worried about something.
Just a minute. Even when there was a crack in the end shield, I am telling you that there was no release of any activity to the atmosphere, to the water, or to the soil from outside that plant. And it is not that every crack means that you have to throw away a reactor.
You said the Narora plant was safe. You say the plants in Rajasthan are safe. In spite of the fact that there have been long shutdowns, cracks in the reactor end shield, hundreds of cases of spontaneous shutdowns. What does it take for you to consider a plant to be unsafe?
I think today, technologically, we know enough about how to live with aging systems, that it is not necessary that the very first time that you see a crack or a bend, that you have to abandon the system.
I know of no other nuclear power plants in the world that have a record anywhere near as bad as these.
Stephen Thomas is a policy researcher and analyst at the University of Sussex in England. And for the past 15 years, he's been poring over technical data released by India and other countries with nuclear power plants. Thomas says India's plants have far more unplanned emergency shutdowns than any other country in the world, a sure sign of trouble.
The Indian nuclear power program is not just one incident a year. You're seeing continual unplanned incidents throughout the year. Things are going wrong all the time. So these nuclear power plants don't run like clockwork. They are always in trouble.
But Dr. Gopalakrishnan insists that India enforces the same international safety regulations that the United States and other nuclear countries do. Yet that certainly wasn't the case at this uranium mine in the Indian state of Bihar, where an Indian cameraman secretly videotaped radioactive waste called tailings being pumped into a dried-out holding pond. It's supposed to be fenced off and covered with water at all times to prevent the spread of radioactive dust. But this one has been dried out for years, and a Geiger counter showed levels of radioactivity 100 times normal. Yet villagers and their animals walked across the tailings, drank from leaks in the pipes, and bathed in a nearby stream contaminated with radioactive runoff, oblivious to the dangers. Gopalakrishnan had no idea that the situation existed until he saw the videotape.
If people are walking over a tailing pond, I would agree with you that if that is a regular practice, and certainly it doesn't conform to international safety practice.
And we asked him about an interview that the cameraman filmed with a worker who said that he had never been issued any protective clothing and regularly handled radioactive ore with his bare hands.
I personally do not believe this story at all.
But if it's taken in the context of the lack of security at the tailing pond, the lack of the water, it's easier to believe.
No, I don't think these are such earth-shaking things that you're talking about.
But they are earth-shaking to some people. Local midwives report unusually high levels of stillbirths and multiple birth defects in the area, and these aren't isolated cases. Around the Rawatbada nuclear plant, the one with the crack in the end shield that was shut down for 3 years, there have also been disturbing medical reports. Workers at the plant exposed to high doses of radiation with precancerous lesions. And in nearby villages, children with missing hands, children with bone tumors, children without ears, children with 2 thumbs. When Sangha Mitra Gadekar, a country doctor educated in the United States, asked the Indian government to investigate, she says she was ignored. So she did her own study, comparing villages near the plant with others 50 miles away. The villages near the plant had significantly higher levels of birth defects, the kinds of birth defects you don't see every day, not even in India.
Rare, very rare.
How do you know it's related to the nuclear plant?
Because the thing is that there are no other industry in that area. That is one thing. There's only nuclear power plant and the heavy water plant.
When you saw all these deformities, what was your first reaction?
I first felt that it should be investigated. Because personally I felt that there was something unusual, something which was out of ordinary, and a scientific investigation should be done why this is happening in this kind of place where you don't see it in other parts.
You spend a lot of time in small villages.
Yeah.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
No, I had never seen things like that in a small village like this.
The Indian government recently ordered safety inspections at all of its plants. But at the same time, it's going ahead with plans to operate for another decade its oldest nuclear facility at Tarapur, the plant the Times of India once called the most contaminated power station of its kind in the world.
How could you tell the people blatantly, untruth, that nuclear power is safe? How can you tell the nation that there is no danger? How can you tell 800 million people that there are no leaks? And whatever money we are spending for the betterment of the future of my people.
One, it's my job to set the tone for this company. Two, to me that means being direct, being truthful. We call that straight talk. Three, straight talk means being on the phone when there's news, good or bad. Four, I'm straight with people, and I expect the same, from our brokers to my kids. Five, time is money. Thank you for your time.
Final call.
We've got to move fast, Kirby. I hope you booked Hertz.
Not exactly, but this company's fast. As fast as Hertz #1 club goal? Not exactly, but they do have a special place to pick up the car. Like Hertz? Not exactly, but it'll be waiting.
Under a canopy? With the keys in it?
Not exactly.
And protected from the weather?
Not exactly.
In Rent-A-Car, there's Hertz and there's not exactly. Make sure you choose the right one.
Counting on that promotion, Kirby?
No, not exactly.
We all know granola's great tasting, but there's another side to it. Fat. That's why today's granola fans go for this. Kellogg's low-fat granola. See, it's loaded with flavor. Big clumps of whole grain, brown sugar and almonds, clumps of sweet raisins and cinnamon. So today's granola fans get the taste they love and just half the fat of granola. Kellogg's low-fat granola. For today's granola fans, today's granola. Great taste, half the fat.
It was 1955 when H&R Block began preparing America's taxes. And throughout the decades, we've always stood behind our work, even went with you to an audit, no charge. Our prices have always been reasonable, and we've continued to grow with more experienced tax preparers than anyone. It all holds true today. The times and tax laws have changed, but one thing hasn't changed. You can still trust H&R Block.
As you must have gathered by now, Andy doesn't always mean what he says. It's just his way of poking fun at the rest of us. Not tonight. Tonight, Andy means every word of it.
Last week in Jackson, Mississippi, Byron de la Beckwith was sentenced to life in prison
for ambushing the civil rights leader Medgar Evers from his hiding place in the bushes across the street from Evers' home in Greenwood. In its story last Sunday, the New York Times said, "After 31 years, blacks say justice has at last been done." Blacks say justice has been done? The idea that blacks alone rejoiced at the conviction of Byron de la Beckwith is objectionable to this white man who was ecstatic over it. In 1970, I spent 2 months producing a 60 Minutes report with Harry Reasoner on the murder of Medgar Evers. Before driving the 90 miles to Greenwood to film the houses of Medgar Evers and Beckwith, I checked in with the FBI district chief in Jackson. "Don't buy gas," he said. "Don't stop for anything. And whatever you do, don't sleep in Greenwood. They'll know you're there." To further put us at ease, he said to let him know every few hours where we were. Back in Jackson 2 days later, Harry joined us. When he started his introductory statement on camera in front of the same Hinds County courthouse where Beckwith was convicted, we were arrested by 2 redneck sheriffs. Harry and I were brought into court to answer trespassing charges because we'd been standing a few feet off the public sidewalk on the courthouse grass. The judge was a fan of Harry's, and he let us off. The next day, I went to the company that employed Beckwith. They made boat trailers and those big rigs for carrying picked cotton. We'd been told Beckwith traveled Mississippi as a recruiter for the KKK under cover of his title of salesman. Seemed possible, so I asked to see the president of the company. "I'm looking for Byron de la Beckwith," I said. "I understand he works for you." He looked at me, flushed red, and shook his finger in my face. "You mention that boy on your television," he said, "and I'll get you. We got people everywhere, and I'll get you." Well, the report was broadcast, and he didn't get me. But for months, I looked across the street towards the bushes when I was putting the car away at night. I'd appreciate it if the New York Times didn't exclude me and millions of white Americans, many from Mississippi, next time they mentioned people who thought justice was done when Byron de la Beckwith was convicted of murdering Medgar Evers.
Last October, when we did a story about the Navy's Tailhook Convention, we had a pretty good idea we hadn't heard the last of it, and an even better idea that the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Frank Kelso, hadn't heard the last of it either, no matter what he said on the record.
I didn't have any idea the sort of things that are in this report went on.
Kelso was asked if he would resign.
No, I'm not going to resign. I take the responsibility of what happens on my watch. I think that what I need to do is to continue to work to fix it and make sure that it doesn't happen again, and that's what I'm going to do.
But this Navy flyer, Lieutenant Rolando Diaz, also attended Tailhook, and he says that Admiral Kelso didn't take responsibility for what happened on his watch. And Diaz can't believe that Admiral Kelso didn't know what was going on. Diaz freely admits that he took part in a bizarre Tailhook ritual called leg shaving, as seen in this candid snapshot.
You were a leg shaver yourself?
Yes, I was
the leg shaver?
The.
Why? What was your training for this undertaking, Lieutenant Diaz?
I just came out of a women 90.
And you never went above the knee?
Oh, yeah, a few times, but they had to ask for it.
They had to ask for it?
They asked for it.
And Diaz advertised his services by hanging a 10-foot-long poster with letters 2 feet high over the patio where the partying was going on for all to see.
Who was in the patio?
Big brass.
Like who?
Kelso.
The Chief of Naval Operations?
I went out for a break.
Yeah.
Take a break. And I stood next to the man. I'm talking like from here, this distance.
The CNO? Mm-hmm. Who knew what was going on with you?
Well, there was a poster, a banner right outside the door that says free leg shaves. I mean, blind men can see it from a mile away.
Why haven't these higher-ranking officers, all the way up to CNO, been brought up on charges like some of the smaller fry, like the lieutenants, like Diaz?
They got a better union. I mean, bottom line is the Admirals Union is the best union to belong to.
Well, not necessarily, Representative Schroeder. Last